There are moments that do not announce themselves. No warning, no signal that something irreversible is about to happen. In the spring of 1964, a karate champion walked into a tournament hall in Long Beach, California. Ranked, respected, 11 years of discipline behind him. That afternoon, he saw a quiet young Chinese man standing near the back wall. He made a comment, 3 words spoken loud enough for others to hear. 9 seconds later, he understood what those 3 words had cost him. He never competed again. Not because of injury, not because of age, because of what he saw in those 9 seconds that he could not unsee. Long Beach, 1964. The Long Beach International Karate Championships was the most serious gathering of martial artists on the American West Coast. These were not hobbyists. These were men who trained before sunrise, who understood that the body was something to be educated, not simply used. The tensions in that room were rarely spoken, but they were present in every posture, every unspoken assumption about whose art was real and whose was performance. Japanese and Korean systems held authority. Chinese martial arts, to most people in that hall, were tradition, not combat. Into this room walked a young man of 23. 5'7", perhaps 135 pounds. No uniform marking his rank, no trophy, no announcement. He stood near the back wall and watched. This stillness was the first thing people noticed, and the first thing they misread. He had competed for 11 years. His record was legitimate, earned through genuine competition and disciplined practice. In that world, a world that rewarded seniority and lineage above almost everything else, he was a figure of standing. He was not a cruel man, but he was a certain one. Certainty in some men becomes its own kind of blindness. It does not intend harm. It simply stops asking questions because it has decided questions are no longer necessary. When he looked across the hall and saw the young Chinese man standing quietly near the back wall, his certainty spoke before he did. The word, heard clearly by those standing close, was tourist. In that world, it meant one specific thing, outsider. Someone who has come to observe what he cannot understand and will leave without contributing anything real. It was said with the comfort of a man who has never been wrong about such assessments before. Several people heard it. A few looked toward Bruce Lee to see if he had as well. He had. He turned, not quickly, not with the sharpness of a man whose anger has been triggered. He turned the way a man turns when something has requested his attention and he has decided, calmly, to give it. He looked at the champion. The champion looked back. What passed between them before anything physical occurred was, according to witnesses, already a kind of answer. Not aggressive, not heated, simply clear. A brief exchange followed. Low voices, not an argument, an exchange. The champion gestured toward the open floor, an invitation or a challenge, depending on how it was understood. Bruce Lee did not negotiate. He did not prepare. He stepped forward. What the room witnessed in the seconds that followed has been described many times over the years. The champion moved first, a controlled front kick, the kind he had thrown 10,000 times in training. Technically sound, properly committed, it did not land. Not because Bruce Lee blocked it, because he was no longer where he had been standing. The movement was not a dodge, it was a redirection so slight, so economical, that several witnesses said they did not see it happen, they only saw its result. What followed was a single contact, an open palm placed, not struck, against the champion's sternum. No swing, no wind-up, no visible preparation. The champion stepped backward, one step, then found his balance. He was not injured, nothing was broken, he was still standing, but his kick had missed a man who did not appear to move, and a hand he never saw coming had stopped him from the inside out. One man who had been training for 14 years described it simply: everything happened before he registered that it had begun. The demonstration lasted 9 seconds, then it was over. Bruce Lee stepped back. He did not gesture to the crowd. He did not speak. He returned to where he had been standing. He watched the tournament continue. There is a particular kind of silence that falls over a room when it has witnessed something it cannot immediately classify. Not the silence of shock. Shock is loud in its own way. This was the silence of recalibration, of men who had spent years building a precise understanding of what was possible inside a human body, suddenly holding that understanding up to what they had just seen, and finding the measurements no longer matched. No one said this aloud. No one needed to. The champion remained in the hall for some time after. He spoke to people. He went through the motions of someone attending an event. But those who knew him noted a particular quality to his silence. He was not angry. He was not embarrassed in the way a man is embarrassed when he wishes to hide. He was thoughtful, in the way a man becomes thoughtful when something has shown him, without cruelty and without ceremony, that his map of a territory is missing an entire region he did not know existed. He left quietly, without the reframing, without the dismissal, without the competitor's natural instinct to find an explanation that preserves what he already believed. Those who saw him leave remembered it. He did not disappear. He returned to his school. He continued to teach. He was still disciplined, still technically precise, still the authority his students had always known, but he did not compete. The tournaments came, every significant one he had entered for years, and he did not enter. When students asked, he gave reasonable answers: teaching, focus, age. These answers were true, but they were not complete. Something had changed in his relationship with competition, not with martial arts, which he practiced with genuine dedication for the rest of his life, but with the specific act of standing before judges and submitting his ability to external measurement. He had encountered something at Long Beach that the measurements available to him could not account for, and there was in him something too honest to pretend otherwise. A man who trains for 11 years builds more than technique. He builds a picture of himself, where he stands, what he is capable of, what the ceiling of his world looks like. That picture does not shatter easily, but when it shifts, even slightly, the world it was holding in place shifts with it. That afternoon in Long Beach had not broken him. It had simply shown him something true. And the particular burden of an honest man is that he cannot unknow what he has seen. He retired from competition that year, formally, without drama. Bruce Lee left Long Beach that afternoon and continued working. He did not speak of the incident as a victory. He did not return to it in interviews. He did not use it as an example in his teaching or his writing. The moment for him was one moment in a life made entirely of moments, each engaged with fully and then released. He was not collecting evidence of his own greatness. He was simply present, and then moving forward, and then present again somewhere else. The karate instructor who had witnessed it said one final thing years later. The thing that stayed with him was not what Bruce Lee did. It was that he had no interest in whether anyone understood it. He was not teaching a lesson. He was not proving a point. He responded to what was in front of him, and then it was over. The champion never returned to competition. The man who dismissed him became, in the years that followed, one of the most studied figures in the history of martial arts. And somewhere between those two facts, the retirement of one man and the legacy of another, the afternoon in Long Beach lives quietly, not as a victory story, as a question that answered itself in 9 seconds in front of everyone. But perhaps the more important question is not what happened in that hall. Perhaps it is this: what are you certain about right now, today, that you have never once thought to question? Because the champion was not a foolish man. He was not a weak man. He was a disciplined, experienced, serious man who had simply stopped asking. And one quiet afternoon, without warning, the answer walked in through the door.